The chapter starts with Ralph and Piggy meeting on the beach. Ralph asks Piggy who's left on his side. Piggy answers that there's a few little ones left, as well as Sam and Eric who went to collect wood. Then Ralph mentions Simon and gets up to get the conch. To Ralph, the conch is an object of comfort and reminds him of civilization. However, at this point in the book, the conch has lost its symbolic meaning and most of the boys have lost all ties to civilization. Ralph believes that they murdered Simon and that there are no excuses to be made. Piggy tries to convince him that it was because there was thunder and rain and they were caught up in the dance. He says that it was dark and they were scared, and that they were on the outside of the dance circle. He tries to rationalize their actions because, as an intellectual character, he finds it hard to accept the guilt that he took part in Simon's murder. He highlights that it was all an accident. Ralph denies it at first and can't accept that it wasn't his fault. However, later on he agrees with Piggy that they were on the outside and they saw nothing. Piggy tells Ralph that they'll live on their own with just the four of them. They talk about how that's not enough people to keep the fire going, and at the same time, Sam and Eric drag a big log out of the forest and dump it by the fire. They talk nervously to Ralph about how they were tired, got lost, and left the dance early. At this point, all the boys are thinking about how they murdered Simon, but none of them want to bring it up. They all agree that they left the dance early and leave it at that.
In the meantime, Roger approaches Castle Rock and is challenged by Robert. Robert explains that Jack said they have to challenge everyone, even though it was clear it was just Roger. This shows how much authority Jack has within his tribe and how everyone obeys his orders obediently. After climbing up Castle Rock, Roger tests the defense system, and both him and Robert exclaim that Jack is a proper chief who will protect them well from the beasts and Ralph's group. Then Roger states that Jack is going to beat up Wilfred. Both of them don't know why because Jack never explained or gave a reason. However, Wilfred has been tied up for hours now. After leaving the top of Castle Rock, Roger heads down to join Jack, who's talking to the rest of the tribe. The newly beaten and untied Wilfred was in the background crying. Jack states that they will go hunting again tomorrow, but some of them will have to stay back and defend. One savage asks what will happen if Ralph and his group try to sneak in. Jack responds that they will, as well as the beast. After a hesitation, Jack states that the beast came disguised. Some of the savages question whether or not they killed the beast. Jack responds saying that it's impossible to. One of the savages starts to agree that the beast disguised itself. By this point, it is evident in the book that Jack has total power and is able to influence what the rest of the boys in his group believe. Here he convinces them that Simon was in fact the beast, just disguised. None of the boys even think about how they murdered Simon, and this shows that their morality and ties to civilization are gone. Their bloodlust grows stronger, and Jack uses this to manipulate them. Jack then suggests having a feast, and then one of the savages asks how they'll make a fire. This gives Jack the idea to raid Ralph and his group to steal their fire, and asks who will come with him that night. Maurice and Roger put up their hands, and it is decided.
Back on the other side of the island, Ralph lit the fire again. The boys start to talk about how nice it would be if they could make a plane, a radio, or a boat. After this, Ralph mentions that he remembers Simon talking about a dead man and a parachute. He flinched at the painful memory and the fact that he was present at the dance where they murdered Simon. To switch the subject, he suggested they go find something to eat. Together they left to the fruit trees, carrying their spears. When they return, Eric explains that he's too tired and asks what's the good of having the fire anyways. Ralph gets mad and tells him not to talk like that. Sam backs up Eric and again asks what's the point of having the fire. Ralph tries really hard to remember, but he can't. He knows that there was something overwhelmingly good about the fire, but doesn't remember what it was. Piggy is the one who answers that the point of the fire is to make smoke so they can get rescued. They agree to let the fire go out for the night and relight it in the morning. Following this, they all leave to the shelters to go to sleep. As soon as the boys start to sleep, Ralph gets nightmares about home and all the things that he used to have and know. At this point, all the boys are awake again. They talk about how they'll soon become crazy if they don't get rescued soon. Once again, they fall asleep. Soon after, Piggy is awakened by noises from the outside and wakes up Ralph. They hear a stick snap outside and they quickly begin to fear that the beast is real. They begin to fight with the creatures who came into their shelter. The creatures leave and Ralph and his group are all injured and bruised. Ralph tells the others that the creatures were Jack and his hunters. He goes to check on the conch and states that it was still there. Piggy acknowledges that they came for something else. At this point in the book, Ralph's group has lost the only advantage they had over Jack's tribe, Piggy's glasses. All they have left is the conch, but that no longer holds any power.
Off in the distance, Jack, Maurice, and Roger headed towards the Castle Rock. Occasionally, they sang and turned cartwheels. From Jack's left hand dangled Piggy's broken glasses, and with that, the power to make fire.